We're doing the fuel pump for the second time in my Skyline today. Alright, so long story short, I wanted to change the fuel pump in the Skyline just as preventative maintenance. I mean, these cars are almost, approaching 30-year-old now, so this is the pump I got from DW. They advertised this as for 300ZX and also R33. GTST or GTR, they didn't specify, but yeah, DW 300, this thing's liter per hour should be rated almost double what the original was for this car, so should be plenty. Alright, so sneak peek why I was not prepared last time. So from another distributor, this was advertised as the seal for the fuel pump, and this must be for either the trim cover seal on top or for another model Skyline, because this absolutely did not work for me. I'll open this up later, but this is actually the correct part number for the fuel pump hanger, and I believe this is available stateside. This is out of, I think, just some Nissan Altima from the 2000s. Submersible fuel line, which is different from regular fuel line, because regular fuel line can't have fuel touch the outside of it. I believe it'll deteriorate the hose, and so this long fuel line goes from the top of that fuel hanger to the fuel pump. We'll take a look at that when we take the pump out. There's a bunch of ways to take that lock ring out, the fuel pump lock ring, and there's a bunch of hack ways to do it, like hitting it with a chisel or a piece of wood. I bought the right tool this time. If you don't want to buy the right tool, stateside, any like AutoZone or O'Reilly's, I think you can just rent tools for free. So these universal fuel pump ring tools, just go to the store and go rent it. It's free. And besides that, when we assemble everything, we can torque it to the correct torque spec. All right, cool. What do we have to do? We got to relieve fuel pressure and then disconnect the battery so that we don't get sprayed and shocked and exploded. Cool. Alright, so we'll pop the trunk. Alright, so before we disconnect the negative side of the battery, there's a few ways to relieve fuel pressure. There's a fuel injector fuse in the engine bay. I'm going to try something different this time. I'm actually just going to unplug the electrical connector off of the fuel pump, start the car, let all the fuel run out, and the engine will stall by itself, and that way we relieve fuel pressure out of the system. This is important because you'll see when I take this cover off, there's a bunch of fuel lines, and if there's 50 pounds of pressure in that line, when you take it off, it's gonna not only create a mess but create a hazard under here. So yeah, why don't we do that? All right, got my four screws off. All right, this rubber, I'm just gonna fold it up and push it through. Then cool. And then you see two electrical connectors there. Why don't we unplug those guys? Alright, now that this is unplugged, we'll go start the car and it'll stall by itself. Alright, so Skyline must be a thirsty girl, because you could hear it try to start, but looks like that little bit of pressure in the line wasn't even enough to start the car. So yeah, fuel pressure should be relieved. So yeah, now I'm going to disconnect the negative side of the battery, and we'll get started. Alright, got my 1, 2, 3 hoses off. 2 of them are clamps. One is this Phillips fuel injection clamp. I got thrown for a little bit of a curveball because it looks like, yeah, it's this one. There's a lump right there. Looks like last time I did this, I might have damaged the hose inside, or maybe it was just time for this thing to rupture on the inside, but luckily I found this. So I think I see where this terminates underneath the car, so we're gonna replace this. This should just be a 5/16 fuel injection hose. yeah, every time I work on my own car, I'm always like, man, I really don't want to stay too late today, but always get thrown for a curveball. So yeah, I was looking for just like some generic 5/16 fuel injection hose in my stash. Luckily, I have this Dash 6 braided hose that's rated for fuel. So yeah, hopefully I know where that line terminates. So yeah, we're gonna replace that, you know, 30-year-old hose with this good hose. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Yeah, I'm glad I found it now. Cool. So yeah, right there, that's where the fuel line terminates at. So, and then it goes, it's gonna be hard to see, but it feeds up. And this is the driver's side, you know, JDM driver's side. Feeds up into the gas tank, right next to one of the upper control arms. So yeah, once again, go buy or rent the right tool. You can see there's little tabs on this fuel pump lock ring. Some people use a hammer and a chisel or a block of wood. Absolutely dangerous. And then how are you gonna torque this thing to spec again? So yeah, go rent or buy the right tool for that lock ring. All right, so here's a better look at what that fuel pump lock ring looks like. Please excuse the fan. The fan's blowing so you don't die of gasoline poisoning in here. Yeah, this is how this guy goes on. So yeah, got the fuel pump out. I'm gonna do my best to show you where this guy mounts at. So it's gonna be tough to see, but there should be 2 plastic tabs there, and the fuel pump will just slide into those 2 tabs right there. And then right to the right of it is the fuel level sender. Yeah, last time I did this, part of the reason for me doing the fuel pump was that my fuel level sender would always read full, and mine completely fell off to the side. Like, it clips on this way, slides onto a bracket, and mine completely fell off, so it read full all the time. I've also read on the forums that the electrical connector can come disconnected, which is kind of scary inside the gas tank, but also write-ups on people cleaning the contacts on those. You can tell the gasoline's getting to me. The fuel level sender. Cool, so we got our fuel hanger assembly, and yeah, remember those 2 plastic female inserts right there. This guy just slides right in. So alright, sorry guys, I'm actually gonna have to have 2 fans running in the background because the ventilation in this place is pretty poor. But yeah, you can see how bad the OEM seal was, and this one's the brand new one. Alright, so there's the part number. It's 1 foot of this submersible fuel line. It looks like 1 foot is just about gonna be enough. So yeah, that's good. I'm gonna, instead of these, I'm actually gonna put some real 5/16 fuel injection clamps. I'm pretty sure this hose is a hair skinnier than the OEM hose. A hair skinnier in diameter. The DW kit had a longer section of hose, but it was not 12 inches long like we needed. So maybe that kit would work in a 300ZX, but for R33 GTST, we actually need this little short section plus like a 12 to 14 inch section. I cut this to size. Normally the DW kit has 2 worm gear clamps for this. I'm doing so many fuel clamps, I had these proper clamps for this, so I use these. The DW kit, there's the pump. You have to wire in the new electrical connector, so I just use solder shrink connectors. And you can see how I retained this guy to the hanger using the provided worm gear clamps. And yeah, you can tell this is the right kit because it comes with this extended sock, and this looks, you know, very similar to factory. So yeah, before I die of hydrocarbon poisoning, I'm gonna go assemble this and then put the fuel pump back in the car. Alright, so as you guys can probably see, I'm probably like 1 inch short, but I think it should be alright. As you can see, this guy has some slack in it, but play it safe, I'd probably buy a bulk of this, so maybe like this plus that. I'm gonna say like 20 inches about. Yeah, better to have some left over rather than be too short. So I'm gonna run with this. I'm sure this will be fine, but yeah, if I was to do this again, I'd get a bulk amount of this submersible fuel hose. Alright, got my new fuel line on. Those spring clamps those spring clamps definitely were not going to work, so I got my fuel injection clamps on there. The OEM tie for the wire harness. I got the new seal on there already. Pro tip, dry silicone on all over this seal will help the ring go on and help this guy slip in easier. If you don't have dry silicone, just like a really thin, you know, hair of dielectric grease. I've done that for these kind of seals before, so yeah, it helps when you install these seals. We're less likely to tear also. So yeah, let's just give ourselves a double check and install this guy. Alright, got my fuel pump in. This right here, there should be a mark on the gas tank. You gotta line up the arrow before you put on the fuel level cylinder to clock this in the right spot. Before you put this in, there's an electrical connector for the fuel level cylinder. Plug it into this guy. I've remembered from last time that it was actually easier to put the seal in the gas tank first and then sit this guy into the seal. So yeah, with that being said, let's go put on the fuel tank lock ring. Yeah, quick look at the service manual. That's the arrow I'm talking about. And then it looks like we're gonna do 30 to 35 Newton meters on him. All right, got it in. Got my 30 to 35 Newton meters. That was actually a lot of force for that lock ring. I think next time I'd get some dielectric or some silicone spray and spray the inside of that lock ring to help it sit on there too. Back in my dealership days, I had a coworker replace a fuel pump on a diesel Benz without this sort of tool, and he couldn't torque it to spec, and that thing stunk up the whole shop like diesel forever until we can get the right tool and torque that lock ring to spec. So yeah, again, go buy or rent this. Don't try to do the fuel pump without this thing. Cool, got my braided fuel line on right there. Got my connectors plugged in. Yeah, pretty much we're there. Just gotta put this guy back on and then we'll go into the car and see if the car starts or not. All right, so I left our access cover off for now because we're gonna double check if we have any leaks or any nonsense going on in here. So why don't we connect up this battery? So you gotta remember, through that whole fuel line, there's no fuel right now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna prime the fuel pump a few times. So what does that mean? Key on, let it prime, turn the key off, and then key on again. We'll do that a few times. We'll do that a few times to prime the fuel system. So let's do it. Yeah, you can hear the pump run. I can see my fuel level gauge is moving up. So I know that guy's working again. I didn't forget to plug that thing in. Let's do that a few more times. Yeah, this DW pump's actually really quiet. I've driven this like 2 weeks now, and when you're driving, you can't hear it. It's only like this when it primes. So there's 3 primes. Let's start this guy. Yeah, looking good. My fuel level gauge is moving where it should be. We're here in the back seat. I can't tell if I can hear the pump or not. You can like faintly hear something back there, but it's like honestly negligible. Cool, while we're back here, we'll just double check. No nonsense, no leaks back here. We're looking good so far, no weird smells. Alright, that's it for our fuel pump install video for R33 GTST, where we used a DW300 fuel pump, replaced a few lines and gaskets. If you have any questions or comments, leave something below. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time.